Blair did this. They did this, in the 90s. I mean, and that was fine then, because Thatcher was still sort of slightly defining the debate, I guess, and saying, well, we can live with Thatcher was a sort of radical and a signal to say we're not loony. But why in 2024 you don't need to do it?
Why are Labour people obsessed with talking about Margaret Thatcher? Rachel Reeves made her big May's speech last night.
As we did at the end of the 1970s, we stand at an inflection point. And as in earlier decades, the solution lies in wide-ranging supply-side reform to drive investment, remove the barriers constraining our productive capacity, and fashion a new economic settlement, drawing on evolutions in economic thought.
Spine-tingling stuff. And then so they briefed this out, and it's all over the front of the papers. Rachel Reeves casting herself as Margaret Thatcher.
Yes.
Keir Starmer did it, a few weeks ago as well. And then immediately what she has to do then in the Q&A is walk it all back.
Look, I joined the Labour Party because I disagreed with so much of what Margaret Thatcher did to Britain in the 1980s. And my politics is a reaction against what she did. What I'm arguing in the speech, that 1979 was a point where the country had to make a big choice. And they made the choice. I wouldn't draw the parallels too much.
So what's the point?
Well, it's completely contradictory.
Yeah.
Yes, it was an inflection point, whatever that is. We kind of sort of understand what it is. Country made a choice with the consequences for the certain industries, entire industries and communities across the north of England, Scotland and Wales, which Labour Party opposed at the time. But she was saying it was the right choice. And now she's saying it's the wrong choice. Made her join the Labour Party.
The point really
so
is that she's trying to get more Tory voters, isn't she? She's got that. It's a very simplistic idea that people who would have voted Tory but may now swing to Labour would all have loved Margaret Thatcher, isn't it? So it's that sort of, we're going to try and get you by your totemic person, the person that you love most, which actually I think everyone's quite nuanced about Margaret Thatcher anyway. Probably
it's also been done before. I mean, it's now 35 years since Margaret Thatcher was... 45 years since Margaret Thatcher was elected in 1979.
It's more than 10 years since she died.
Yes, and the Labour Party Blair did this. They did this, in the 90s. I mean, and that was fine then, because Thatcher was still sort of slightly defining the debate, I guess, and saying, well, we can live with Thatcher was a sort of radical and a signal to say we're not loony. But why in 2024 you don't need to do it?
I'm not worried. Actually, 5 points ahead of the polls as well.
Well, yeah.
It's a sort of,
half of the electorate, they won't be really very aware who Margaret Thatcher was.
Yeah.
What worries me more actually is the fact that then they're basically dissing Tony Blair, and actually I think quite a lot of those Tory voters would have thought, we're a bit nervous about Labour, we're not sure about them, they may be raising taxes, but look at what Tony Blair did, it wasn't that bad. So people have kept saying to me, actually a Labour government under Tony Blair wasn't that bad. So if you then say you disagree with Tony Blair and you start being rude about him rather than Margaret Thatcher, actually just makes them slightly uneasy because they're thinking, well, if you're not Tony Blair, what are you going to be?
Yeah, a bit weird, because Tony Blair won 3 elections in a row. Even in 2005 he had a majority of 60 or something. So a bit weird to diss him, given that you want to start winning elections.
It's a very weird thing. But then, like David Lammy's been doing it. He's been defending Rachel Reeves' comparison to Margaret Thatcher, saying you can take issue with Mrs. Thatcher's prescription, which is obviously what lots of Labour people would do. But she had a big manifesto for change and set about a course that's lasted for 2 decades. Margaret Thatcher was a visionary leader for the UK. No doubt about it. That's absolutely clear.
Lots of people who have big manifestos for change, we don't agree with them.
Well, Hitler. Hitler had a big manifesto for change.
Exactly.
It's like when people say about him, but he had good
or he stuck to his beliefs.
Yeah.
And
really he said he was going to do it, and he did it.
And so that's all nonsense. I don't get this. And there'll be Labour people in the Red Wall who voted Conservative in 2019 who really don't like Margaret Thatcher. The idea that just because they voted Conservative last time for Boris and Brexit means that they thought Thatcher was a great thing. Do you know what I mean? They didn't. That's why it was a surprise that they voted Tory, because of what had happened to them previous generation.
So it's 38 years since Thatcher last stood for an election. So you'd basically be pushing 60. if you'd to have voted for her.
Yes.
Well, it's almost like going back to Churchill now, isn't it? So you kind of expect them to start evoking the Second World War soon.
Yeah.
So there's that sense that you could go through all the former prime ministers and what you want, why you wanted bits and pieces of them.
Well, they still do talk about Disraeli in the Tory party.
Yeah.
Their biggest problem is they can't say anything at the moment. So Rachel Reeves can't say how she's going to either get the money that she wants to spend or what she's going to do with the economy because she's so nervous about the fact that she's going to be held to account.
So they're not actually doing the thing that they're talking about.
No.
They haven't got a big manifesto for change.
Yeah.
No.
And
They're
they
sort of
can't say
invoking
anything.
someone who did and saying we need one of those.
Yeah.
So, well, okay.
But she's also saying she joined those the reasons she joined the Labour. She basically saying she joined the Labour Party for the wrong reasons. She was wrong to join the Labour Party in the 1980s because what it turned out she was against then. She's now saying she was. With hindsight, it was a good thing. It was the right thing to do.
Well, it's okay because never mind Margaret Thatcher. Keir Starmer's tackling the big political issue.
Yeah.
Last week, was it last week or the week before? Rishi Sunak and his wife
a couple of weeks.
sat down. Akshat Murty sat down with Grazia magazine to discuss their domestic arrangements.
Yeah.
In which it basically turns out that Rishi Sunak is a nightmare. He goes and makes the bed when he should be working. Yeah. She loads the dishwasher. He unloads it and reloads it.
He's passive aggressive, isn't he?
Yeah.
You have to say that would be quite irritating if you were.
It's being seen as a sort of quirky male-female husband-wifey type thing, but it's blinking weird.
Yeah, it is weird. So now Keir Starmer's waded in. He's now spoken to Grazia about dishwashers. He says, do we all stack the dishwasher? Yes, we do. Is that his new slogan?
Yes,
we can.
Yeah.
Do we all stack the dishwasher?
So,
yes, we do.
Stack it for the many, not the few.
Yeah. He said, do we all have to change the bedding? Yes, we do. But I'd never go up and check or criticise my wife when she does it. Then talking about the dishwasher, he says, my wife does it much better than I do. There's no doubt about that. But happily, we don't live in a household where we go around criticising each other for the chores. We're just very glad when the other one's actually done it.
Yeah.
I think this kind of stuff before an election is really ridiculous because you want to say, what are your big issues? Like with Rachel Reeves, you want to say, what are you actually doing? And the fact they're all arguing over the dishwasher, it was the same actually with Theresa May when she said we have boy jobs and girl jobs that my husband takes. We don't want to know that sort of stuff because everyone does that kind of stuff. It's so dull. And the one thing I really liked about Keir Starmer in that sense was that he didn't involve his wife. We don't know the names of his children. He's not constantly doing, shoots with them. And now, if he's going to bring his wife into everything, it's going to be really irritating.
Well, this is part of the problem with the book, the Tom Baldwin book. We're supposed to lift the lid on his private life. And they're sort of, well, if we do that, then it was going to be open, what's the word?
Season?
Open season. So just the very idea of a biography of Keir Starmer is nodding off in mid-sentence.
The dishwasher thing, it's weird as well. And I had that sort of gratuitous here having to say that your wife stacks it better than you do, which is sort of slightly damning with faint praise, isn't it?
I genuinely have lots of views on my wife. I genuinely have no view on how anyone in our house stacks the dishwasher. No,
but badly in our case, I think. I mean, we all just chuck it in. So.
It's also that male thing of saying, well, you do it so much better than I do. It matters more to you than it does to me. Yeah. That's why you do 80% of the domestic work in the house.
But also, it has no effect at all on how you're going to run a country. So
none whatsoever.
You literally
can't. Sorry, Alice.
There's no way you can say, if you're a neat dishwasher tidy or you're not, it doesn't really affect what you're going to do with the economy or how you're going to solve the NHS.
Yeah, but it does say something about your personality if you take it to extremes like the Prime Minister does.
Wait, and actually it does affect how you run the country.
Because you're not there.
You are leaving your desk in number 10 to go upstairs and make the bed.
Yes. I mean, as I say again, that is frankly weird.
Yeah. Or maybe he has his best thoughts, though, making the bed. You never know.
No, I mean,
we just don't want to know is the point, really, isn't it?
But again, it's one of those things. It's a bit like the boys' jobs, girls' jobs thing. Where someone thinks, we'll do like a light, soft thing. What's the worst that can happen? And actually, it turns out you show that you're a psycho.
Yeah.
Accidentally.
Yes.
In the dishwasher.
Yeah.